It is my absolute pleasure to introduce this wonderful woman whom I've known for several years now. Elece is the Executive Director of Petaluma People Services, which is dedicated to improving the social and economic health of our community by providing programs that strengthen the dignity and self-sufficiency of the individual. She's been a resident for 26 years, having joined PPSC in 2004. She is a graduate of Washington State University and has enjoyed a rich career creating new business while growing and restructuring already established businesses. Prior to PPSC, she served as the Chief of Staff for a venture capital firm in San Francisco. She has had an extensive background in sales, marketing, and general management in the software and services industry. In 2012, she was honored with the We're All in This Together Community Building Award. In 2014 and 2015, she was named California Woman of the Year. In 2016, she was awarded the North Bay Business Journal Nonprofit Leadership Award. She is also a fellow Paul Harris recipient from our sister club, the Valley Rotary Club, so she has lots of good things going on for her. She is the past president for the Petaluma Healthcare District Board and a current board member, past president of the Petaluma Chamber of Commerce and current board member, and sits on many other county and local boards as well. She continues to inspire all of us to be better community leaders every day. Please welcome Elece Hempel.
Thank you, Ann. Ann probably doesn't remember this, but the first time I met her was at Dempsey's. We were carving pumpkins to raise money for Petaluma People Services Center. That was the first year I was working there. So thank you for having me. And it's an honor to be here. It's an honor to be here to be able to say Happy New Year. I'm usually the last act of the year for you guys, and so I'm excited to be here. And I'm excited to tell you about the work that we're doing at Petaluma People Services Center, because that is my passion. I would be remiss if I didn't start with a heartfelt thank you to all the work that you're doing for our garden, our sensory garden at Petaluma People Services Center. You know, that garden is going to give us an opportunity to expand the work that we do with the children in our community. Those kids that we work with at PPSC have been victims of abuse. They have been abandoned by family members. They are in foster care, and they don't really have a place except at Petaluma People Services Center to belong. And so for us to be able to give them this garden, for them to go out and enjoy and frolic and love what already has been done is very exciting. So thank you for that. But what I want to talk to you today is about what we do every day at Petaluma People Services Center. For most of you know, 1974 was when PPSC was formed, and it really was a bunch of community members that got together and said, down in Petaluma, we're the second largest city, we should have the same services that they have in Santa Rosa. Just because it's the county seat, we should have those same services. And so the county told this group of community members that they would make sure that they got those services down there. And so they started to pay attention. Were they getting the services down there? And they were. And so truly, this group of community members went up to the county and said, give us the money, we're going to do it ourselves. And that's how Petaluma People Services Center got started. Our first program and our existing program is our Meals on Wheels program. This program, along with all of our other programs, truly is a lifesaver in our community. One of the things that makes me so proud about our Meals on Wheels program is we deliver a hot meal 365 days a year. Most Meals on Wheels programs deliver frozen meals now. So the nutrition part is so important. But the community members stopping in and visiting that aging senior who's not able to leave their home and cannot cook for themselves is so important for how they continue to live in our community. And it's not a program that is really geared for those who are living in poverty. As we look around the room, we notice that most of us are getting older and the community is getting older. And Meals on Wheels is a program that's available to everybody. Anybody 60 and older who's no longer able to leave their home qualifies for Meals on Wheels. And it allows us to continue to allow our community to age in place. When we talk about aging in place, and when I started 15 years ago, a little side note, we were doing 60 meals a day. Now we're doing 320 meals a day. We do that with the help of volunteers. We have 3 part-time staff, and everybody else helping us get those meals out are volunteers. And so engaging in your community and getting connected to our community through volunteer work is so important. Our other senior programs are Adult Day program, right down there next to across the street from St. Vincent's. If you've never had a chance to stop in there, go visit it. It's an amazing place. It's a respite. So it's for somebody who's taking care of a loved one who's got dementia or Alzheimer's or is just too frail to stay by themselves. They get to come in, they have socialization, they do a little exercise. I get to go and hug everybody. I try to stop up at least once a week and get a hug from everybody. They get to have lunch. They get to be taken care of, while the loved one who's been acting as the caregiver is able to stay at home and get the rest that they need or take care of themselves. 9 times out of 10, it's the caregiver who passes first when they live with somebody who has Alzheimer's or dementia. So it's so important for us to have those kinds of programs. Again, it's one of those programs that PPSC and the community has allowed us to continue to fund because of your support. And again, it's one of the few that's left in the United States. So we're doing some pretty amazing things to allow people to age in our community. We also have iRide. Anybody get here by iRide today? No, but you know what? You could, yeah, you got here by, Ricardo got here by iRide. So, see, I'm good at taking advantage of those programs. iRide was a program that started after Petaluma People Services Center stopped providing paratransit for the community, for the city of Petaluma. They farmed it out to a for-profit company. And then all of those people who were riding paratransit started calling and complaining because they weren't getting the services they felt that they deserved as people who are no longer able to drive. And they couldn't get to where they needed to go in time. I mean, I highlight this one day when I was dropping off something at the Argus Courier in the morning. It was like 7:30. There was one of our little seniors standing out in front of her doctor's office in the rain. It's because paratransit doesn't necessarily have to drop you off when your appointment is. They have a window that they can drop you off, and they just drop you off. And so, aside from me sharing the phone number of the mayor with every senior in town, we were able to start iRide Petaluma. And iRide Petaluma is a volunteer opportunity for seniors to get driven from point A to point B. They could be going to a doctor's appointment, they could be going to a hair appointment, they could be going to the gym or wherever they need to go. They could even come to Rotary. And this program actually has now provided about 385 rides a month and over 2,000 miles every month of volunteer rides that we give to seniors from point A to point B. I do have to tell you, Joe Tamby always tells me he likes my hair short. I volunteer to drive a little woman up to our hair appointment, and she'll call me after about 2 months or 3 months, and she'll say, "It's got to be time for a haircut. Let's get on that car and get up there and get our hair done." So iRide is a new program that is really taken hold in our community, and I encourage you, it's one of those things you can squeeze and work around your busy schedule. You can say, I can drive Tuesdays from noon to 2, and we'll start to let our seniors know, and they will change their doctor's appointments so they can get picked up and dropped off and then back home by somebody who's carving out that extra time to volunteer and drive them. So Senior Services is a big program that we provide. We also have our Senior Cafe. Someday, maybe this Rotary Club could join us at the Senior Cafe for their Thursday lunch. It would be really fun to have everybody at the cafe, and we'll make that happen. I'm putting that on a New Year's resolution. So we also have employment programs. We have employment programs for people who are on TANF, which is temporary aid for needy families. So it's families who are struggling to find jobs, struggling to survive in this economy, and they really have a whole bevy of issues that they have to deal with. That's our adult employment program. We also have a youth employment program, and our youth employment program is not only here in Petaluma, but it's all of Marin County. And the youth employment, when we say youth, we mean 16 to 24 years old. These are young people who have addiction issues, maybe have dropped out of school, maybe parents have other things, mental health issues, the foster kids. They've struggled and never really had a caring adult in their life. And so our case managers take the role of providing the caregiving and being that role model for the young people, and then we put them into work. And the beauty about this grant is we're able to put them into your business and pay them. We pay them while they get trained, while you put them to work. And so it's an opportunity for young people to understand and get into a business. Lots of times the trades, they wouldn't have an opportunity to do. And I will tell you, we're really excited. We just received a fairly large grant to do training for women 60 and older. So in Petaluma, I just finished this grant, so I know this fact right off the top of my head. In Petaluma, if you are 70 and older and you are living with your spouse, female, male, and the male spouse dies, that female, because most of their equity is only in their home, immediately enters into poverty programs. And so this allows us to take women who haven't been in the work world for a while, or maybe have retired and need to get re-careered into different kind of roles, and put them to work. Right now in our cohort, we have a woman who she's 70 years old. She lives in Marin County. She was a brain surgeon, and she retired. She really wants to go back to work because she wants socialization. She really wants to learn something new, but nobody will hire her. The only thing she's ever done is been a brain surgeon. She really just wants to answer the phone in a business. That's all she wants to do, but no one will hire her. So we're training her how to answer the phone so that she can work in that business. So there's so many things that we do in these employment programs that give people an opportunity to learn and grow. The other thing that we have in our employment group is a program called Grads of Life. And I encourage you all, especially employers, to go on the Grads of Life website. And what Grads of Life does is it recognizes that sometimes the person you're interviewing doesn't have like this resume that is stellar with a Stanford pedigree, education, and maybe a master's in something, and may want to go work at Exchange Bank, but they're going to want to be a teller for 3 weeks and then they want to be the boss. So this actually gives you an opportunity to look at other people's skills and their life experiences in order to recognize that they may be that more loyal employee than ever before. So, I'm not done. We have 57 programs that we provide to this community. 57 programs. In any other community, we would be 57 separate nonprofits. We continue to grow. We have counseling programs. Our counseling programs, I know, aren't you getting tired? He's getting tired. Our counseling programs are available through Medi-Cal, Beacon, which is managed Medi-Cal. I'm excited to announce we now take Kaiser. So anybody who has Kaiser and needs behavioral health counseling, we're able to provide that. We take the Blues, the Blue Cross Blue Shield. So we're able to provide mental health to our community that would not necessarily have access. Yes, our waiting list is there's a little bit of a waiting list, but it's not as long as most behavioral health waiting lists. We also have invested in programs that we call evidence-based or evidence-informed programs. So when you are getting your services, or your family is getting services, or your next-door neighbor is getting counseling services through PPSC, they're getting what we call evidence-based programming, so that they're getting programming that really looks at and says, this is the outcome we want. We want this couple to stay together. We want this kid to get out of trouble. We want this young person to be able to find their way and get the additional mental health services that they need. All of those things play into the services that we provide. There's a whole big long list on your table of all of the mental health services we provide. Functional family therapy, countywide. That's a program where we work with kids who have been arrested. And not only do the children, the young people who've been arrested, have to come to counseling, but the whole family. That includes the crazy uncle sleeping on the couch, has to participate in the counseling. And those, I know, hey, you're sleeping on there's a crazy uncle back there. So those are the counseling programs that we provide. We also have a variety of ancillary services. One of the things that makes me so proud to be part of Petaluma People Services Center is 5 days a week, from 7:30 to 8:30, somebody is answering that phone. And that's so important to our families and our community who are in crisis. Because the last thing you need to be is kicked out of your home and again calling and getting, if you're homeless, hit 2. If you're hungry, hit 3. Those services are so important. So we actually have somebody answering the phone all the time. And that's really kind of a value that we bring to our community. Another program that we have is our Petaluma Bounty. Our Petaluma Bounty came to us 6 years ago. It's hard to believe it was 6 years ago that Petaluma Bounty was a standalone nonprofit but was really struggling and needed to find a place to fit in, and so it came to PPSC. And we have been able to get some federal funding to keep it going and to continue it to grow. If you've never been down to the farm, I encourage you to get down to the farm. In fact, that's another place we could have another Rotary breakfast, lunch, dinner, where you can actually join us on the farm and learn about what we do there. At the farm, which is just down from the Petaluma Police Station, they grow fruits and vegetables that we distribute through the Interfaith Pantry food distribution. We also have a program called the LIFE program. The LIFE program is a federal program that allows us to work with people who are on food stamps or CalFresh. When they go to a farmer's market, we're able to double the dollar of what they get. Now, other communities have that program, and what they do is they make the farmer give double the product for the same amount of CalFresh. So somebody goes to a farmer and says, outside of our Petaluma and Marin County, they go to a farmer market and they say, we're buying $2 worth of tomatoes from you, and the farmer is expected to give $4 away. Here in Petaluma, Sonoma, and Marin County, if you go to a farmer's market and you're going to use your CalFresh or your food stamps, we double that, but we actually reimburse the farmer for the value of their food. Because so many of our farmers, especially our small farmers, who are using the farmer's market to actually, as their lifeline, as their living, are living close to poverty themselves. And so this actually is a win-win for everybody, and people are really rethinking about how they get access to food. We also have education and outreach programs at the farm. If you've got young kids, I encourage you to get them down there and start to volunteer. It's a great way for them to learn about philanthropy. Starting on Martin Luther King Day, you can actually come down on Saturdays, bring your kids, your grandkids, bring the neighbors, I'm sure they'd like a break, and come down to the farm and help us grow fresh fruits and vegetables that we distribute throughout the community to feed people. That's a nutshell of what we do every day. Every day we look at who we are and how we do it. Just recently our board was talking about how are we going to tell people? It's hard. I got a lot of programs to talk about. I can only touch on all of them a little bit. And we started to talk about how we really, truly touch the lives of so many people in our community. In fact, last year we touched over 10,000 members of our community. Some we only saw once. They may have needed rental assistance, or they had to have fair housing, or they just needed instruction on where to go to get access to food. And some we see every single day, 365 days a year, because we're delivering hot meals to them. So this is a program that really, truly is a lifesaver for our community. It's a program unlike any other community. It's here for us as Petaluma residents to continue to love and live where we want to. And I couldn't thank the Rotary enough for all your support. It's been an exciting time working with everybody on the program. I think Dr. Shrib, who's down there a lot, I think you guys have connected him. I think some of our employees actually think he works with us. They think he's an employee because he's down there every day in that garden working. And on the 10th, I don't know if you all know that, but on the 10th, kids from Casa Grande High School are going to come down and do some planting, and we'd love to invite you all. And once it's done, we're having a big old ribbon cutting down there, and we'll invite you all to that too. We couldn't thank you enough for that. And I want to thank every single one of you, because when I look around and I see all your faces, I've been counting those checks from our direct mail, and I want to thank you all for making those donations that really do keep us afloat, because We are primarily grant funded, but we need those extra dollars from our community to continue to provide the additional services that help us touch our community in so many ways. So that's all I got. Well, I can keep talking. Yeah, I can keep talking.
So we have some questions, so why don't we let them rip?
Let them rip. Okay, Ricardo, you're
First one, Ricardo.
Thank you very much. I could have done it without the microphone. I only have one question, which is, when are you really going to get involved in this community, Elise? Because I just don't think you're doing enough. No, I want to take the opportunity to thank you for all that you do, and beyond PPSC and the people that you inspire and the work that you do, our community is so much better, it's richer and fuller with your participation, and I really do thank you for all that you do for our community.
Thank you, Ricardo. My son pointed out to me about 5 years ago, I came home one day and he said, I think I figured out why you're so passionate about Meals on Wheels. And I said, why? And he said, because some days you're going to need it.
Just want to get a sense of how you work with other community agencies like COPS and the Boys and Girls Club. Is there a network of execs that work together on projects, or how does that work?
There is 100% network of people and how we work together. In fact, most of the time, if you're over at the Mary Isaac Center and you see a therapist, that's a PPSC employee that's providing that therapy. If you're at Mentor Me and you're working with older children, it's PPSC and Mentor Me that have joined together to make sure that the safety net's in place for our youth. If it's Petaluma Valley Hospital or Petaluma Health Center and those seniors are vulnerable, it's those groups that are connecting us to our case managers. So there's not an agency that we don't work with. In fact, we spend a lot of time helping to make sure that we don't have redundant programs, and we make sure that they fit together and the referral system is easier. And with the health center, we're always working at trying to figure out how to streamline our referral system for counseling, because they don't have the capacity to see all of the people that need the mental health counseling, and how can we make that connection easier to PPSC. So yes, we work together, and I'm excited to have the new executive director at COTS on board. I've known him for a long time when he was up at Catholic Charities. In fact, when they called and said they had named the new executive director, I said, yes, it's somebody I really like. So that makes it even easier. So yes, we work continually and seamlessly with all of those agencies to make sure the safety net is in place for our community.
Well, just to add one thing, and Greg, you've been involved on behalf of our Rotary Club with the Salvation Army. And I've got to say, now, Elise, this is the way she likes to speak slow for us Rotarians. She normally speaks many higher octaves, but when she and Deborah Dalton get together and Mentor Me, how does that work? I mean, I'm not even sure what you're saying, you're going so fast.
I hope we don't really even have to talk, Deb and I. We just say the same thing, and we just keep thinking it over and over and over, and then it happens. I will tell you that our first program and project that we kicked off at the Transitional Age Youth Facility over with the Salvation Army and Mentor Me was a parenting class that was parenting teens. It was an art therapy class for moms who are parenting teens. It was so successful. We're going to have a new cohort that'll start in February, and we're doing it over in the Transitional Age Youth Facility where the Salvation Army, Mentor Me, and PPSC have all come together.
Elise, I'm kind of curious. I didn't realize all the things you're doing. I was kind of curious. It seems like there's a lot of needs out there. How do you measure your services provided, people touch? What have been the trends for PPSC as far as how you measure yourself in growing need? And then I'm kind of curious what locations you're at. I mean, I thought I knew, but then you threw out one that, what's the scope of it?
So thank you for that question. So when I started 15 years ago, it's hard to believe it's been 15 years. How, Anita? How did I get that old? Oh my God, how did I get that old? We didn't necessarily measure and keep track of our numbers, but what we have learned is understanding who we're serving and knowing whether or not the programs are effective is how we're going to continue to provide the quality services. And so we do see a lot of clients who are living in poverty. You'd be amazed at the number of people. I will tell you that the biggest trend we're seeing and hearing is we run fair housing for the city of Petaluma. And for the last 4 or 5 years in Petaluma, a lot of people have been living basically under the radar in substandard quality houses. And we have been working with the city of Petaluma and Joe Garcia to make sure that we can get people in apartments and homes that are standard, like have running water and heat, because we have people in our community who are living currently without heat or running water in their homes. And so, but our partnership does not, in any other community, if Joe Garcia and the rental groups went in, they would say, this is a substandard house, we need to get everybody out. What we do is we actually work with the residents in that home to find them a place to live so they're not homeless. And then we go in and we condemn that place with the city of Petaluma. And I think the added value to that is that people feel safe and secure. And we all know, if you spend any time around people who are homeless, if we can keep people housed and out of the shelter, we're 10 steps ahead of providing all the additional services. So we don't have to continue to back that up and it costs us more as a community to provide those services. And so our program, like our rental assistance program with the city of Petaluma, which if you look back, the city has been funding PPSC for probably 15 years with this program. It's little tiny grants that we're able to make to landlords to keep people in their homes, keeps them out of homelessness. Once they enter into that shelter, they enter into this land of costs that you and I as community members have to absorb. And so by keeping them housed and providing those wraparound services that we're able to provide at PPSC, we're able to actually move the needle and get them further along on the poverty scale so that they can start to live more independently. Places where we have offices and businesses. So, of course, we are over next to the senior center. That's where our senior cafe is. When I started at PPSC, we called it the congregate dining, and I thought, that sounds good. I want to go to congregate dining. Now we call it the senior cafe, and I will tell you, you have to make a reservation to go have lunch over there because it's so popular. It's such a great place. They get socialization, they get connected to individuals, they get a wonderful lunch prepared in our kitchen that we recently remodeled, and that connection to other people is so much a needed part of who we are and what we are. There's always opportunities to come speak there. If any of you as business leaders would like to come speak to the seniors at that group, we'd love to have you. We have our adult day, which is across the street from St. Vincent's. We are doing counseling in McKinley, McDowell, Valley Vista, Liberty. We have counseling services that we provide and educational programs for families. Parenting is probably the hardest thing we have to do, and it's the only thing we don't get training or licensing for. So we actually do parenting classes. We just have launched a parenting program with the health center. So any baby that's born to a member of the health center has an opportunity to go to our parenting classes, which are evidence-based. And so we get the kinds of outcomes that we need to have. And by providing those programs, we're not going to see those kids when they're juniors in high school and they've made a mistake and they're in trouble and they're doing drugs and their parents. We're touching them before they need them. So we're as far upstream, if you will, as we can get in providing services to our community. Joe?
Elise, would you please describe for us the program that you've been engaged in for a few years, where you identify homeowners in Petaluma who might be willing to rent a spare bedroom to someone, a veteran or somebody else?
I certainly will. That's called the Share Sonoma program. And so Share, and a lot of you heard about it during the fire because a lot of you came down and answered phones in our office for the Share fire. So the Share program actually incubated at Petaluma People Services Center, and it's a home share program, originally designed for people who were homeless, and then we realized that that was too hard to have families invite a homeless person or seniors invite a homeless person in. And so we modeled it and we have evolved it into a home share for seniors. And so It's a matchmaking program like no other. In fact, I always say if that team would have matchmade me with my first husband, I wouldn't be divorced. But they didn't do that. So they do a great job of connecting you with people. Now, in Petaluma, you heard me talk about aging in place. One of the things that's happening in Petaluma and in Sonoma County is seniors are actually stuck in place. The old model used to be you raise your family, you live in your 4-bedroom house, and then you downsize. You sell to a smaller, you move into a smaller place. Well, you can't, there's not a lot of smaller places in Petaluma, and B, you can't get in there because those families that are trying to move into Petaluma are beating you out of those places. And so what we have is a lot of seniors who are house rich, but struggling to pay their utility bills and buy their medicine. And so this home share program allows them to open up their home for a variety of different programming. There is, you can do a service exchange. Let's say you're a little too old to take care of some things on your own, and so you bring in somebody who's older but not as old, and they can take care of it, and so they can exchange services in order to live in your bedroom, one of your bedrooms. You can do it as just renting it out. We have gone so far as bringing in a veterinarian to introduce the pets to a home share to make sure that the pets are going to get along. And so it's a way to help people, especially 60 and older, continue to live in our community and to be viable and active in our community, because we're taking the pressure of that mortgage rent off of them, and then also giving somebody who could easily be homeless. Imagine being 70 and homeless, because it happens in our community. Most of them don't move into the shelter. Most of them are sleeping in their cars. So they're actually able to sleep in a warm bed and have a place that they can call their own.
In the last 2 years, how many home share?
Oh, well, excluding the fire, we're probably around 500 home shares that we've put in place throughout Sonoma County. So it's a hugely valuable program. We're in the process, that program was incubated at Petaluma People Services Center. It's trying to become its own nonprofit, so they're working on towards becoming their own nonprofit. And our goal is to actually take the work that we've done and the studies around the work we've done and be able to sell those services to other nonprofits throughout California and the United States so that they could implement their own share program. Susan.
So I have two questions related. The first is, you seem to want volunteers to deliver Meals on Wheels and iShare. So how does one go about signing up? And then the second question is, what else do you need help with?
So, thank you. So yes, we always need people to volunteer for Meals on Wheels and iRide. iRide is a huge demand. If you know anybody in Roanoke Park, right now we're working with the county to get Roanoke Park launched, and we're having a hard time finding volunteers. We've got a lot of seniors up there. So it's really a simple call to the agency, or go to our website, petalumapeople.org, and you can download those applications, and you can fill out the applications and get them into us. You can send them in electronically. Everybody thinks we're so big and huge. You know, if you hit admin at Petaluma People Services Center, guess who comes to me? If you hit jobs at Petaluma People Services, guess who comes to me? We're not that big. You know, we're 57 employees with over 480 volunteers a year. That's how we do all of the services, is those 480 volunteers a year. And the one thing that I have learned through my years working at Ed, we are able to secure a lot of federal grants. And the hardest thing about a federal grant is having a match, but they let us count volunteer hours. And so our volunteers, some of them are volunteering, they drive Meals on Wheels, it takes 2 hours, okay? 2 hours, and they do it once a month. 2 hours, once a month. That's a little bit of your time, and that, to me, is about $800 that I can call a match to our federal grant. So those types of volunteer opportunities actually allow us to leverage and bring in more dollars to our community and able to provide more services to our community. So, our website, iRide. We will need volunteers, and Joe Tamby and I believe somebody else from this club also volunteered. We need Earn It, Keep It, Save It starts in the end of this month. Earn It, Keep It, Save It is tax preparation for families and low-income individuals. We have, on Fridays and Saturdays, we're doing those taxes. Last year, we brought in about $800,000 of unearned income credits to our community. That's $800,000 that people in our community are able to spend at grocery stores and at your businesses to live in our community. And that's just by doing their taxes the right way and getting all the things that they actually deserve by doing their taxes. So we're always looking for volunteers to help us with that. It's through the United Way, and we are the longest standing partner, and we will be kicking off on February 1st, starting doing the taxes for our community. So that's one of the others. There's always a million other things. There's always something going on. You know, the Petaluma Bounty always needs volunteers. We need volunteers when the farm stands are open. We need volunteers to help us harvest. And there's standing times to volunteer, Saturdays and Tuesdays. You can show up and you can just get busy. And we'll even let you adopt a tree or have your own row. You know, some volunteers are a little persnickety and they want those, that's my strawberry row, and keep your hands off my strawberry. As long as you show up and pick those strawberries for us, we'll let you have that row.
Elise, I have a question for you. You know, Rick Mossy was talking about metrics and success and everything I've heard. Well, a lot of it has been, you know, the passion, all the things you do, all the network you have. And like Rotary, a part of you has to do leadership things. And so when it comes to most of your money comes in from grants, I'm sure over the years you've gotten much better in terms of who you or the team when they prepare grants. And I'm just, obviously some of it is the emotional, the logical, the feeling side, but then others, I imagine, have to have a certain amount of metrics and gathering data. Can you tell us a little bit about, you know, how the grant process works and all the effort that goes into that?
Thank you for that question. Yes, we're primarily grant funded, which makes us different than most nonprofits here in Petaluma. Even COTS is not as grant funded as we are. But the downside is it's harder for our community to really understand the value because they're not necessarily writing that check or invested through their own dollars. And so one of the things that I have spent most of my time doing is going out and explaining to the community, we need your dollars just as much as we need those grants that we have from the, especially the county and the state. One of the things that when we talk about metrics and who the county looks to run programs, it's Petaluma People Services Center. Mm-hmm. We have been an evidence-based program, and we use evidence-based programming and have for the longest time. And even before I was there, we use this evidence-based programming. Again, what we get is measured outcomes. The success is achievable, and we're able to say and count those successes like you wouldn't believe. I will tell you, today we had an agency breakfast at Palms Grill. And my staff said, why Palms Grill? It seems like it's kind of off the way. And Onita will say, they're not a chamber member. Why'd you have lunch there? Because the owners of Palm Grill, she does say that. The owners of Palm Grill were clients of PPSC. And when I look around this community and understand and recognize how many people have been clients of our agency and have been taken care of by the passionate employees that we have that ensure that everything is going right for those individuals, it's so important. And when we talk about matrix and we talk about counting, and the county comes down and says, why can't we do more things like PPSC does? I will tell you that, so the nonprofits that were doing senior services in Solano and Napa County on July 1st, 2018, that nonprofit went bankrupt. The county of Sonoma was required to provide additional services to those two counties because of a mutual aid contract. The county didn't call Council on Aging, which is the biggest provider of senior services. They called PPSC and said, can you run senior services in Solano County until we can figure out what's going to go on in Solano County? And honestly, we have been running senior services in Solano County since July 1st. The county just called us and said, can you continue until July 1st, 2019? And so we are going to continue to do that. But that speaks volumes on who and how we provide our services. We are passionate about making sure and meeting the needs. And I think one of the things you don't get when you look at some of the bigger agencies up in Santa Rosa that provide similar services, you don't get the passion of your neighbors serving you. And honestly, that's what you get at Petaluma People Services Center. It is your neighbor. It is your community member. It's somebody who lives here, who's making sure that you're getting those services you need here. And that's the added value of who we are and how we are. The grant writing process, it's changed so dramatically in the 15 years. It used to be you would take this much paper. Now most funders want to know what you do in 14 words. I can't even get my mission statement out in 14 words. They want to know what you do in 14 words, and they want to know how many people you're going to serve and how you're going to do it. So grant making has changed dramatically. People always say, I'm going to go into becoming a grant writer. It's like, good, you only need to know 14 words. But the process has changed dramatically. But we couldn't do it if we didn't have the underlying support of our agency. You know, PPSC is a $2.8 million agency. So that's a pretty good sized agency when you think about it. But and most of it comes from grants. About $100,000 comes from our direct fundraising in our community. But that $100,000 is hard to get to. It's always a struggle. And so, again, I can't, your time is so valuable to us because it becomes a match, and it's so valuable to our community because you're touching somebody in our community. But the little bit, if you got a little bit you can give, that always helps too.
Well, thank you, Elece Hempel. Wasn't that great? I have something for you. This is Speakers for the Speaker, since you're such a good person, Bluetooth speaker. And because my wife always tells me I'm between a rock and a hard place, look what she's done. She's made some rocks here for the garden. And so what we'd like to do is to also, for the youth and seniors, is we've got some paints, and we'll give some more. And if you want some rocks, you just tell us, what size. My wife and I will go out on the hunt. But we'll get you some, that are plain, so that some of the kids, when, they're normally with you, a couple of days with CPS?
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll be happy to make some more and to have those for your Serenity Garden. So
thank you.
Thank you very much. Aha. Okay, well, thank you all for coming. I hope you had a good show. Elece is a remarkable person, and we look forward to, I don't know, maybe February 10th. You kind of got me thinking now. John Shribso, Mike Caruana says is, once he starts talking, he's a professor and, a high-level bridge player like myself. So, we'll try to cut it back on him, but love to do that. But thank you all for coming. I hope you had a good show. And until next week, have a great week. Happy New Year.